So, a lot of you guys send me questions on Facebook, Twitter. Well, not so much on Twitter. I just really joined. I got like two questions. Mostly on Facebook though, and YouTube. And I've decided that it was instead of answering these questions privately, in a message, I should answer them publicly because some people out there or some of you out there might have the same question, and I could answer it, to a bunch of people because I get hundreds of messages every single day, and it's so hard to keep up with everything. So if I can answer some messages, and hopefully that gives a large amount of people the right information that they're looking for, then great. So that's what I hope to accomplish with this new Q&A series. So welcome to the first Q&A video on Jacob's Aquarium. Alright, so using my handy dandy iPhone, let's go ahead and look at the first couple of questions here. So this comes from Joseph Mendez, and he says, I need info on installing dual overflows in my 100-gallon aquarium. Also need info on what pump size to get and how a sump is better than the actual canister filter. Doesn't an overflow just skim the surface of the aquarium? How does everything below get filtered, and doesn't it just drain the food out of the tank during feeding time? So this comes from Joseph Mendez. Okay, so first part of the question, you need information on installing dual overflows in a 100-gallon tank. So I'm assuming you're going to have one overflow in the corner, in the corner. I'll just use the frame of the camera here. Pretend this is the tank. You're going to have one overflow here and one overflow there. Basically, you're doing a custom plumbing installation, okay? And there's so many different ways you can do this. People actually prefer that they don't take any advice on this and they do it themselves because they already got their own design in their mind. But basically what I would do with the dual overflow is I would do a weir type overflow. And a weir overflow is basically a piece of plastic that you silicone in a diagonal shape in the corner of the aquarium, and it has little teeth at the top for water to go through. I would do that, or there's a more expensive solution. You can go onto eBay and they sell actual overflow boxes that you can silicone to the glass. But like I said, they're more expensive. So either way, it'll work. With the weir though, that's going all the way down the side of the tank to the bottom. The overflow box itself will just pretty much just not even be halfway. It'll just sit at the top and silicone around it. Next, you have to figure out how big of a sump you want to get or how much flow you want to get, because I assume you're going to be drilling glass or acrylic or whatever you choose. And the diameter of the hole that you drill is also going to affect how much water flow that you're getting. Now, in general, I always recommend that people go a little over what they're looking for, just basically for in case, they want to change something later down the road. It's not really that big of a deal. Like if you want to change your pump to a more powerful pump for more flow, you can, and you don't have to worry about, your overflows not being able to handle that much water flow. So if you want 400 or 500 gallons per hour, do it for 600 gallons per hour or 700 gallons per hour. Just go a little over, because you won't do any harm in that. And like I said, if you want to upgrade something in the future, you definitely can. Drilling glass, since I drill glass, I kind of have a little bit of experience and I can tell you how to do this. To drill glass, it's very simple. And it does look pretty intimidating. I will admit that there are a lot of people that are afraid to actually drill glass just because it's you're drilling glass, and glass can break and cut you and stuff. But it's relatively simple, and there's so many instructional videos on YouTube on how to do that. Basically, you just need a diamond coated drill bit. You can buy those. Those drill bits on bulkreefsupply.com. They're actually the only website that I found that sells them, and at a really good price. So I'm not, being paid by them to promote their website or being given anything from them. I'm just simply letting you know where I got them because they're, priced so great there, and they're pretty much the only website that I found that sells them online. I did try going locally to my, local hardware stores. Could not find them at all. So. My best, solution, my best suggestion to you would be to order it online as well, because I guarantee you won't find it locally. And then when you're drilling glass, you want to use a drill guide. I did mine freehand, but that's because I kind of have drilled glass before, not to the level of an aquarium, but I have drilled glass before, so I kind of had a little bit of experience when I drilled this tank for the first time. But for people that have never done it, I recommend a drill guide. And also, it's best to drill the tank outside because you have to have running water across it to cool the glass down and cool the drill bit down so you don't overheat things. Um, and just be careful, But don't fully take my advice for drilling glass. Go do more research, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do it. I would suggest looking at those. And the next part of your question is, doesn't an overflow just skim the surface, and will all the food, be wasted and just go into your filtration system? Yes, this is true if you use floating food, if you use flakes or floating pellet food. That's why I recommend people that use an overflow or a wet dry filter with their tanks, they feed their fish sinking pellets or sinking food, not food that floats at the top, because obviously what's going to happen, it's going to go straight in your filter and it's going to clog your filter socks or your filter pads and just make more work for you. So to avoid that, there's plenty of sinking foods on the market, food that stays at the bottom. So do that instead, and that'll solve the problem. And the last part of your question is, how does the bottom of the tank get filtered? Basically, when you're doing an overflow or when you're installing an overflow system into your aquarium, you have an inlet coming back into your tank, and that's usually a little spray nozzle thing that you can adjust. With that, it just depends on the angle and how much flow you have coming out of that little spray connection. Mostly what people do is they will put the inlet right below the teeth of the overflow box and point it downwards, so you have kind of like this swirling motion of water movement. So the bottom of the aquarium gets filtered out as well. It's not just, the top level or a spot here or spot there. So it just depends on your water movement, in your tank. And like I said, by adjusting those little inlets, you'll be able to properly filter out your entire aquarium and not just, certain spots. So that's how you filter out the bottom. Okay, this next question comes from Armando Luna. He says, "Hey Jacob, I have a 20-gallon low-tech tropical planet tank with wisteria, java fern, java moss, anubias, etc. I don't have a cleaner though. I had a Chinese algae eater that Petco sold me when I was brand new, but gave him away because he started to get nippy. I don't want to get a dwarf pleco because I hear they just destroy plants and my tank is too small for Siamese algae eaters. I've thought about buying corycats, but I doubt they'll go up on the leaves. I tried a red cherry shrimp, but now I can't find them." They are pretty small. They do disappear. So I assume he got eaten. Oh, okay, well maybe he did. "I want to try a mono shrimp, but they're hard to find where I live. I don't want them to get eaten. What can I do? Most cleaners are too small for a 20-gallon, and the ones that aren't really what I'm looking for. I figure my best bet are shrimps. What do you think? Thanks. P.S. Keep up the videos. The Planet Aquarium Substrate video helped me a lot." Okay, cool. Glad it did. So for a 20-gallon tank, if you're looking for algae eaters, I'd recommend Auto Sinkless Catfish, just because I've used them in small tanks before, and they do a great job of managing algae. Now, in the beginning stages of an aquarium where you usually have a lot of algae, it may take some time for that to go away because the Auto Sinkless Catfish are pretty small, and they don't really eat that much algae, and they're pretty stationary. They're not like Siamese algae eaters where they're grazing on algae all day. But in the combination of, finding the right algae eater, which, like I said, I recommend the Auto Sinkless Catfish. Also, try to, make sure you're doing everything right within your tank to prevent algae in the first place, like making sure that you don't have too many nutrients in your tank. So meaning nutrients being leftover fish food, a lot of fish waste due to poor maintenance, things like that. Excess lighting, make sure you don't, have your lights on too long. Make sure you're not overdosing fertilizers. I actually always recommend people underdose fertilizers just because the little spit you go over could cause an algae bloom. So just, in the combination of everything, just make sure you do things right to prevent algae in the first place. Of course, the tank will always have algae. There's nothing you can do, but you can manage it. And the Auto Sinkless Catfish will work great for you. All right, this next question comes from Naomi West. She says, "Can I add dwarf Grammys to a 60-gallon that currently has only four blue Grammys? I know the blue Grammys will get larger and don't want to overcrowd I also have a bristlenose pleco in there. Yes, you can definitely do that. The dwarf Grammys and the blue Grammys will go together just fine. And in the 60 gallon, that won't get overcrowded. Always remember that, you can follow the 1 inch per gallon rule. I think that's a great rule, but also remember that if you have a high fish load, you basically can just upgrade your filtration system and it can take care of that extra bio load. Of course, I never recommend overstocking a tank to the point where the fish are just, not going to have a good life. They're going to be unhappy. But I'm simply saying, is if you have maybe 1 or 2 fish that's overstocked your tank, all you basically need to do is upgrade your filtration system to a bigger filtration system with more biological media that can handle that extra bio load coming from, that overstocked tank, all that fish waste and stuff. But yeah, you can definitely do that. All right, this last question comes from Francisco Javier Palacios. He says, "Hey Jacob, love your videos. Do you add any liquid fertilizer in your aquarium or just the CO2? I'm using pressurized CO2 at 2 bubbles per second in my 55 gallon. My plants are growing very healthy, but my baby tiers are growing somewhat slowly. My drop checker is green, so I know I have enough CO2. I'm using Econ Complete and for substrate and 4 T5HO fixtures." Yes, I do use liquid fertilizer. I use CCAM XL and I underdose for my tank. So since my tank is a 50 gallon, I dose for 40 gallons. And I do that with pressurized CO2 as well at 2 or 3 bubbles per second. No. You said your baby tiers are growing slowly. Baby tiers naturally just do grow slowly. I know well, are they dwarf or are they regular? Doesn't really say, but I'm assuming most people send me questions about dwarf baby tiers, so I'm hoping it's that. But if not, the regular baby tiers, they grow somewhat fast. But the dwarf baby tiers, they tend to grow much slower. So that's pretty much expected. So I don't think you're doing anything wrong with your CO2 or anything. And that's it. So yeah, I do use liquid fertilizer and it's great. Another question. Oh, he has another question. How do I get rid of snails? It's impossible. You can never get rid of snails. I'll just put it that way. It's not possible to get rid of snails in a tank. People say you can drop some zucchinis in there or something and just the snails will attach to them and you can take it out and throw them away, but or you can just siphon them out with a siphon hose. But trust me, you're fighting a losing battle. Okay, once snails have taken over your tank, it's honestly impossible to get rid of them entirely. So it's sad. It's a sad thing, but it's true. Once they're in there, they're not coming out. So thank you guys so much for your questions. I really appreciate it. And like I said in the beginning of the video, if you guys would like to ask me questions, you can go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Jacob's Aquarium. Why do I say Jacob's Castro? Jacob's Aquarium. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you like my Facebook page as well. Have fun with your tanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time.